This video is a DIY installation of a 200 series and a Provent Catch Can, so stay tuned. We run you through start to finish on how to fit it to your vehicle. So we've got the Provent Catch Can. We're just going to unbox it here. First thing, we've got the Provent itself, 1x fitting kit. We've got our mounting bracket here. So we've got our drain hose, and we've got 2 lengths of hose here, the in and the out from the catch can. So let's open up the fitting kits. So we've got the catch can itself here, we've got the mounting bracket, we've got 190 degree here, we've got 245 degrees, we've got 6 hose clamps, 2 larger hose clamps, 2 hose reducers, 8 cable ties, M6 bolt and flat washer with a 16mm to 19mm reducer, 2 flat washers, M8s, 2 smaller hose clamps, we've got our drain hose, we've also got our 2 1.4 metre lengths of 16mm hose, and we've got our M12 drain hose here. So that's the whole kit and caboodle in this package. Instructions and a few points I want to make. This kit has the contents kit, but as you flick through the pages, it talks about the Provent Catch Can, do's and don'ts and how it operates. It then jumps straight into installation. It doesn't have a list of tools, so we've made it really easy and we've laid them out right in front, everything we've used from front to back on installing this vehicle. Here they are. Quarter drive ratchet, quarter drive extension, 10mm socket there, 10mm ratchet spanner, 13mm ratchet spanner, 13mm deep extension 3/8 socket, and also 3/8 ratchet, trim tools, flush cut, side cutters, and you've obviously got your hose clamp pliers and also hose cutters. Okay, step 10, it's very important, make sure you read it. It talks about rotating the bracket 30 degrees so the inlet and outlet on the catch can line up correctly for the fitment to the vehicle. It is the last step, so if you just follow the instructions, page 1, 2 and 3 and so on, you'll actually fit the catch can and you'll be unlucky. You'll have to take it back out of the car and do step 10. It's not a great version of the instructions, and that's why I can't say it enough. Read the instructions front to back, understand the job, and pick up their mistake in their instructions. It should be on step 1, so we're going to rotate it right now, so I only put it in the vehicle once. Okay, so we've got all the fitting kit here. We've checked all that off. The catch can, where does it mount? Let me show you the location, where it goes in the engine bay. It's just here. Okay, so in the engine bay, we talk about where it's going to mount. We're going to make sure that it's all clear. There is normally the horn for the alarm is mounted on some models. This particular vehicle doesn't have it there. It's a really easy fit for this vehicle. It's going to mount down there. No other accessories in here. It has got the Donaldson airbox. It's not going to hinder mounting the bracket. Now, one thing I do want to show you is when we talked about step 10 and rotating the catch can mounting bracket, the angle of it 30 degrees, the reason for that was to make sure that the 45-degree exits and entry points from the catch can clear the airbox. Now, I'm not going to mount it. I'm just going to have a visual check that it's not going to foul on anything. Otherwise, what we do need to do, different scenarios, different aftermarket accessories, you may need to rotate it to suit your fitment on your vehicle. Okay, so firstly, what we're going to do here, we're going to take off the engine dress cover. We need to get access to the PCV outlet on the front rocker cover of the engine over here on the passenger side. So just get a 10mm socket, quarter drive, just going to take off the 2 nuts of the engine cover, and we're just going to put that in a safe place. Okay, so we've just used some parts cleaner around the crankcase ventilation hose here where it comes out of the PCV system and runs into the air intake system. We're going to remove this hose here with 2 pinch clamps. You can use long nose pliers, or you can thumb and forefinger and move them back. And just want to make sure there's no dirt and debris here before you start the job, because you obviously don't want to get any contaminants in the oil system or in the intake system. Time to mount the bracket in the vehicle. If you've got the horn located down here on the driver's side guard, you need to remove the factory horn bracket and the horn itself. Take the horn off the bracket and flip it 180, and it mounts through this 6mm hole in this gap in here, back towards the guard. And there will be a connector that sits here as well that plugs into the horn. You need to make sure that lines up nicely. This vehicle isn't fitted with another horn for the alarm, so we're just simply going to mount the M6 bolt with the flat washer into the inner guard, and then obviously put another M6 bolt up higher to secure the bracket in place into this hole just here. So what you might find is some resistance doing up the M6. Some of these holes will have a bit of dirt and grime in them, but also as you get further in, they've got the inner wheel arch, the underbody sealant. Some of the holes have got a little bit of that, so you get a little bit of resistance, but they do go in nice and easy. And use a 10mm ratchet spanner to do this last M6 up here. Okay, so now the bracket's mounted. Next up is to check that the rotation of the catch can inlet and outlet is done correctly for the angles for the hose to come in. You'll see the 45-degree joiner here and the reducer as well. So we've plugged them into the catch can. You'll notice here that you can rotate the angles, so you do have a little bit to play with there. So we're just going to lower the catch can into place, line up the holes on the brackets, and check that the hose exit points don't foul with any air boxes or any other accessories under the bonnet. So this one's looking fine. Next up, once that's okay, is we're going to look at the drain hose. So it's going to plug into here and we'll connect that right now. Okay, so we've just fitted off the 2 large hose clamps. We've used 2 of the medium hose clamps out of the 6 in the kit. We do have 2 small hose spring-loaded clamps, not hose clamps, spring-loaded clamps. The drain hose, however, attaches on the bottom here, and then we've got the drain bung. One important thing I want to make note to, don't shorten this hose. It needs to be this length. It is the capacity of the catch can. What I want to show you internally of the catch can, the actual capacity starts at the bottom here because the filter sits all the way down. So from there down is the capacity. This adds to the capacity of the catch can. So it needs to be this length, otherwise the catch can's capacity is reduced and its service impact on the vehicle is going to be changed. So another tip I want to mention as well, the drain plug as well for this is thumb and forefinger. It's got an O-ring seal. You'll see there is a hole here. It is opposite to what you think. So you're actually screwing it up, as you'll see, closing it down. So it's a left-handed thread. That is sealed. And then you're actually unscrewing it and that is opening it. So when you fit it to the vehicle, it does come open. You do need to close it. Otherwise you're going to fit the catch can and all the oil that it is catching is going to be dripping over your driveway. So make sure you screw that down nicely and away you go. Just thumb and forefinger, and it is an O-ring seal. So a quick little tip is I'm just applying a little bit of warming the hose up. You can use hot water, put the hose in it, soften it. It is a tight fit to get into those barbs. Almost doesn't need a clamp on it, but it just makes the job easier just to push it in. So we've just got the drain tap fitted. We've got the clamp back on there. Just remember, when this orange tap is screwed in, it is open. So you do need to do it left-handed and screw it all the way out. When it's out like that, the tap's locked off. So just make sure you do that. Otherwise, once again, like I mentioned, you're going to get oil all over your driveway. So where does this hose go? Let me show you. It goes down here where the brake lines are and down along to the chassis, to the body mount, just behind the driver's side wheel. So we're going to feed that through nicely and get the rotation so it all lines up. So it mounts up there and then goes down, and then you're going to zip tie the hose in place so it's easy to drain for serviceability. Okay, so for video purposes, we're just going to take off the inner wheel arch covers, 3 trim clips. So I'll just pop them off here. The cover now, I've dropped it out of the way. You will see the drain hose and the tap. I'm just going to slide that down. We're going to route that down along the brake lines, down the chassis, and it is going to end up, just get the light, it's going to end up just tucked in down here on top of the mount when the finished product. Okay, so we're just going to cut the zip ties off, just trim them off. Now the drain hose, we're just going to tuck that on top of the chassis mount, tucks up nicely out there. Then we can refit our trim back in place and the job done down here. Okay, before we get too carried away with that hose in that inner wheel arch, we need to mount the catch can up here so we've got the finish location, and then we can zip tie the hose off. There's no point tying the hose off and then you can't pull the catch can up or push it down. You've got the hose mounted in the wrong location. So we've got the two M8 bolts with 13mm heads. Just going to hand start them, and also got a ratchet spanner to tighten them. Okay, so mounting that, I use a 13mm ratchet on the front bolt, little short extension, deep socket, 13mm flex head ratchet. The back one just makes life a bit easier. If you don't have the tools, yeah, you could sit there and take a bit more time to do with the 13mm spanner. You'll get there. Now we've got that mounted off, we're just going to duck down to the inner wheel arch and tie off that drain hose, and then we're done down there, and then come back up and move on with our hoses. So at this point, it's now time to connect the engine to the catch can and catch can back to the engine. Going to need 4 hose clamps. There is a couple of joiners as well. We'll run through them when we get to that point. At the moment, what we want to do is fit 2 hose clamps onto the hose, both of them, fit them to the catch can, and then use pliers or hose clamp pliers, bring the clamp back up, and then we'll connect it at the engine end. Okay, so at this point we're going to plumb up the catch can to the engine. Just be mindful if you have other aftermarket accessories, i.e. this vehicle has an airbox in it or an intercooler, you may need to route the hoses to suit specific needs on your vehicle at the time of fit. Just be mindful that the engine is moving and fixed body parts aren't moving, and the hose will need to have a little bit of degree of flex in it, and make sure it doesn't rub, that you don't get anything that's going to rub, put a hole in it and rupture it and end up with oil residue, or a hole in the intake that's going back into the air intake. So be mindful of that, and let's get it fitted. Okay, at this point I want to make a reference back to the fitting instructions. I talked earlier about maximum oil capacity in the catch can. You can see a green line here. That references to the V, or the bottleneck in the catch can. That's its maximum capacity. And secondly, the most important thing when fitting this catch can to the vehicle is the inlet and the outlet. They are correctly fitted to the engine the right way around. Now when I'm talking about that, the top hose, as I've routed it along the engine bay, I'm keeping the top hose on the top and the bottom on the bottom, so when I get to the other side, they replicate how they go into the catch can. They're not twisted over and get confused. It's very crucial that this catch can is plumbed the correct way, because the way the flow and the Venturi effects and the filtration in the catch can, it only works one way. So we've just finished cleaning all around the PCV hose on the engine. On the passenger side here, this is the factory PCV box on the rocker cover on the left hand side, and then it goes down into the intake ducts that feeds the intake of the engine. They've got these 2 hose clamps here. We're just going to remove them and then rotate that. In the fitting kit, they give you 2 fittings to tee into it. There's 90 degree of the same OD fittings on it, and also you've got the larger one if the hose is a bit swollen and old. Just depends what you need for your fitting at the time. Got the 2 hoses here to connect to. Once again, just make sure you get it plumbed up the correct way. Okay, so we've just put this hose on. It will need the hose clamp to get refitted, which I've got right here. I'll come back at that. I just want to get the layout of the hose and the lengths, and I'm happy how it's going to sit in the vehicle. The return hose, I've come along, gone under the radiator hose and just come up between the top radiator hose and the rocker cover there. And then we're going to install the 90 degree fitting, and obviously a couple of hose clamps on that as well. Secure that and put the hose clamps back on this one, and zip tie this hose in place and make sure it's all not interfering with the fan or any other moving parts. And that's almost the installation done. Okay, so now we've got all the plumbing the correct way around. We've routed the hoses so they're not rubbing on anything. One thing I want to make sure, the return hose that comes back to the engine under the top radiator hose here, and then I've done the 90-degree fitting. I want to make sure the hose isn't kinked. You definitely don't want any of these hoses to kink, so keep all the bends nice and steady. Make sure it's away from the fan. So I'm going to put some zip ties here, secure it here, and back down here, and just make sure, again, last double check, the top hose from the catch can stays on the top and comes from the engine rocker cover, and the bottom hose, the outlet of the catch can, is staying on the bottom and comes back into the air intake. Okay, so I've just trimmed up the hose. This is the amount of length I've taken off one of the hoses just to get the runs. They're slight different in length, and then I've secured all the zip ties. So we've finished the installation here. So I just want to show you, I have trimmed the hose a little bit just to make it fit perfectly. Just going to put the engine cover back on now, and that's the installation done. Okay, so that concludes our installation of the Provent Catch Can into your 200 series. If you're after one, get in touch with us today. We can get you sorted. Any comments or suggestions, whack them down below. Video content ideas, always good to see what you want to see. See you in the next video, and thanks for watching.